All right. Oh boy. I want to make sure I can hear myself. So pardon me for just a second. I'm going to wait for the stream to go live. And for those of you who are in this and can hear me, and this looks ridiculous, forgive me. I have to do this with every stream just to make sure that we're up and running. So there's about to be a period of silence. Just be forewarned. I'll, of course, annotate the video for those of you who are viewing this on YouTube, as I still have not messed around a lot with editing these things, and I need to do that a little bit. I'm sitting through an ad for my own video. This is illegal, probably. I don't know. Okay, I can hear myself just fine, which means that you can hear me. That's all the more I need. I apologize for being a couple of minutes tardy, ladies and gentlemen of the nation. I'm going to pull this down a little bit closer. But for those of you who are unaware that didn't check out the previous stream that we did about 2 weeks ago, it was something along the lines of important stream about the upcoming future of the Cover Killer Nation channel. We were, or should I say I was, I am engaged in some classes and some education in order to fulfill my next job, my upcoming job. And this requires some standardized testing. This requires a little bit of, well, it's kind of like being in college all over again. But instead of college being something that takes a couple of months, this is something that's being done within the time period of between 2 and 3 weeks. So it's been, as you can probably guess, close to 2 or 3 weeks. So we're nearing the end. So one of the things that I had to do was prior to my state testing exam, and it's for the insurance field. One of the things that I had to do prior to taking my state exam is take a mastery exam to see how I've been doing in the coursework. And I just got my results back at an 84%. I needed 70 to pass. So I'm quite satisfied with that, because I made a deal with myself that I wanted to be roughly at about an 85 or above before I felt confident enough to take the state test. So with an 84, I'm very, very close, and I did that without even reviewing any of the material. I literally finished the last module or the last lesson and then just went directly into the mastery exam. So what can I say? I'm a little bit proud of that. I'm not necessarily an uneducated individual, not necessarily somebody who has difficulty with things of this variety. However, it is always good in these cases to kind of know that you are on the right track. So good evening to everybody. All of you who are here so far. There are, I'm sure, a lot of you that are still starting to find their way in. If you would be so kind, ladies and gentlemen, that are within the stream right now, to tweet this to all of your followers or to let people know. I've had some difficulty with Facebook in the past, and it has kind of come back to the fact that these last pair of indications have only been going to very, very few people. And I'm just looking at 356 for the second announcement about the stream, and then the first one was only 129. So I'm not very, I'm not feeling great about the turnout as of right now. Streaming, I'm going to streaming now. Hang out. I'm gonna repost the link, I think. Yeah. Be a little obsessive with that, so if you see that on your newsfeed over from Cover Killer Nation, you'll know what it is. Should also tweet that as well. Sort of take my own poison, so to speak. And I keep forgetting that I have a Twitter app. I keep forgetting. Oh, find girls to date. Why would I want that? They're probably all fake. Streaming now. Cool. And now, like with most of the streams that we're aiming to do, I wanted to have a theme for this one, and I wanted to speak specifically tonight about the heavy metal community here on YouTube, the YouTube reviewing community, and things like that. And I'm going to precede this by stating that a couple of years ago, whenever this community first was getting its legs and first getting started, that there was a little bit more tightness and cohesiveness among some of the keynote members. It was pretty close. I mean, we did the old the metal melting pot. I was on one or two of those, although I was doing so on a very, very limited internet connection at that time. So it was kind of a confusing experience for me. I'm not sure what the delay was like. I wasn't sure if I was really interrupting a lot of people or just kind of how it ended up looking. Watching the playback as it was going on was very interesting, to say the least. It seemed like it was a real clusterfuck. But like I said, I was on a really limited internet connection, so that's probably solely on my end. So that has definitely changed within the past couple of years. Things have sort of spaced out a little bit. Some folks have opted to move on and do other things, and that's great for them. I'm happy for them. I still try to keep in contact every so often with individuals that are that were formerly, you know, pretty big members of the community. There's only like one or two that I've completely lost contact with, and one of them actually just resurfaced, and he was more. He did a lot of reviews for a short period of time, and then I think he was going into wrestling school, and I think that's sort of what has taken his priority, which is fair. But the community of today is definitely a bit different. Hey CKN, will you give shout outs for a band's new album if we send you the album? Don't worry, it's signed to a label. My brain's a bit mushy right now. I guess. I suppose that I would do that. If I forget, I'm sorry. There's a lot in the brain right now, and I'm not trying to use that as an excuse. I'm just a little cloudy. But anyway, the community of today is a little bit different. We still have a couple of real keynote members that are producing reviews and producing videos, and you probably know the names and recognize the faces quite well. Folks such as Count Blackworth or Runner JMA are still going at it strong, and every so often we have a little spurt of uploading from Bolton's Reviews, who I'm a really, really big fan of. I talk with them a little bit more than a couple of the other guys. We actually had a collab idea that still hasn't come to fruition, principally because it's been all on my end. It's been all on my end because of kind of getting my personal life outside of the channel sort of in order before I wanted to commit to something like that, where the two of us would have to coordinate schedules and potentially run into some conflicts of interest. So it is definitely a little bit different than it was. Where am I reading the questions from? I'm actually reading, if I read anything, it's going to be from the chat, just so you know. So I just read what you said in the chat. That's where I get it from. And Ninja, who posted this directly after Mohan Kenna, the new Satriani has been on my docket. It's now a question of whether or not I'm going to get to it. And that's the same thing with Gus G. I kind of wanted to talk about both. In fact, I talked about wanting to review it in a video. If I do, it may not be for a couple days. That's all I'll say. Simply because of priorities, but I want to talk about them, especially the Satriani. The Gus G was by a suggestion from a fan, and I kind of like the idea. So, at any rate, this community is a little bit different than it was, and I know that there have been a lot of folks that have approached me, mainly through either comments or there have been some messages on the Cover Killer Nation channel page, either that or over on the Facebook page, talking about checking out some work from people and reviewing and blah, blah, blah. I have a follower here in Bolivia, Ariel Franco. Franco. Yeah, pardon me. My speech is whatever. I had to look again just to make sure that my eyes weren't deceiving me, and I didn't say anal Franco, which I apologize. um, I'll get that out of the way. Actually, the sunglasses, while they are an awesome fashion accessory, do restrict my eyesight a little bit. Uh, but I'm in love with these suckers. I can't freaking leave them now. And they're not prescription. These actually belong to my uncle back in like the 70s. So, which is really, really cool. Um, and to answer Jake, I will be finishing the Drush discography. Again, with some things, just give me time. Of course, we were talking about doing a Slayer discography, a quick discography of Slayer right before the new album comes out. I am going to work that in to the best of my ability, all things considered, because there's now a lot more albums coming out right around that same time period. So that will be something where if they come like bam, 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 there's a good chance that I may start doing those in advance and then posting them on those dates would probably be the best way to go about it. I just did, again, I have to say, like, for those of you who ask about if I review the new Lamb of God or the new Symphony X or the new We Came as Romans, things like that, I've noticed some difficulty and some general problems with Facebook's distribution of the content, like the videos that I've posted and stuff like that. So probably your best source of information right now, until I start to note that the Facebook page is doing a little better. Obviously, still go over there. You're probably still going to see this stuff if you're on Facebook frequently. But the channel page of YouTube is probably one of the greater resources that you can use at the moment. And the recent videos section of that will be extremely helpful to you, because I know that the past couple of days, like we recorded and released 3 different videos yesterday. It was originally slated to just be 2, but that new Nile song, I needed to talk about it. I needed to talk about that new Nile song. And we did 2 videos, I think, on Thursday, and then we did the Lamb of God on Friday. So we've done 6 videos just in the past 3 days. And that is going to be one of the benefits and the detriments of the upcoming couple of weeks and months, is the fact that there's so much coming out that we may have to double down a little bit on what we release every single day, which means that some of you may not see that it's been done. One of my largest followers, someone who's been around the Cover Killer Nation for a long, long time. I'm talking a long time. He's been around since the very earliest days in the original blog TV blog TV streams. He did not know that I had reviewed the new Symphony X as of last night, and I had done that on Thursday. So that kind of shows you where we kind of are as far as where Facebook is right now with the distribution of that content. So there you go. That kind of proves it a little bit. I know that there's a lot of changes that are being made. They're considering a monetization function on Facebook, which I have no idea how that's going to work. And given my kind of disapproval and general feeling toward Facebook in the past couple of months, as far as the distribution of the stuff has been concerned, I am really concerned, simply because I think it's going to involve fees and other sorts of things toward producers of content, whereas distribution should be a complementary and almost expected idea. It should be the very basic thing that you have done. So we wanted to speak a little further about the community and the fact that there's a lot of folks out there that spoken to me about wanting to get into reviewing or wondering what it takes and stuff like that, and I wanted to give you kind of a little bit of a cautionary tale of what to do and what not to do, so to speak, kind of where your opinions can kind of work against you. and where your thoughts and opinions can really work for you. And I will, before I get into that, Ninja, to answer your question, I was confused about that Friday release date thing. I actually thought that I was going to have to wait for Lamb of God until this coming week, and that was going to be a real strain on me. And then the light bulb hit that, oh wait, release dates are Fridays now. I think it's a good idea though, because I've worked in the music store for 5.5 years. For most of you already know that, and for those of you who don't know that, now you do. And having the release date on Tuesday was really cool because it was individual. Don't get me wrong, but a lot of folks that were really making their big purchases and getting this stuff, a lot of them had to wait until Friday. So initial release days, unless it was a major release, and I'm talking like Papa Rap principally. A lot of times on Tuesdays, those releases kind of sat there a little bit. It was not something where it's not that it wasn't an absolute need, if you know what I mean, but it was something where it seemed that a lot more people had to wait for the weekend, wait to get paid, and there was a lot better chance that if we got very few copies, that none were going to be available for them, and then there was that whole disconnect. I think this is actually a little bit better off. If they would have done this right around the time in which downloading started to become a factor, I really feel like it may have been less of a factor in the long run, but what do I know? And that's all in the past now. There's no way to really figure it out. If you think that you're going to figure it out now, you're kind of crazy, because a culture has already been established. But opinions like that, like I just described to you, my opinion about Friday releases, it's a great example. You can show disapproval towards something, and you can show approval towards something, so long as you have some facts to back it up. Whenever I first got started, I know that a lot of people loved whenever I just flew off the handle and didn't provide. I didn't provide much. I really didn't. It left me open to a lot of criticism, and I was okay with that. I really didn't give two shits. But the thing of it was that it was done so in such a way where those ideas, those principal thoughts were still expanded upon just a little bit. It just perhaps was not done so in the most technical of graces. So where it can really come and work against you is if you're an individual who does reviews or does any sort of video making on YouTube and then immediately casts your opinion and kind of casts your cancer around to other videos, and really there's a real cautionary tale to be told about overexposure. Like I would always say that I'm okay with promotion, but whenever you're doing it in every single one of the videos thinking that that's going to really benefit you all of that much, it really isn't. In fact, even though I may not directly say something to you, there's a good chance that the people, the fellow viewers and the fellow commenters of a video, they're going to say something to you. And that's a reflection of, you need to stop. There is only so much that you can gain from somebody else helping you out, is I guess what I can say. I could recommend somebody. I could recommend that we watch somebody, that you watch somebody. It's up to you whether or not you do it. You know, you're taking my word for it. And another thing that could be true is that a lot of people may flock based around my recommendation, and that would be very cool. For example, there's a gentleman that I know personally. He's one of my friends here in my personal life. He does YouTube videos under the name The Blogger. And he usually does a lot of work with either movies or with video games. He did a pretty cool video about the whole ET cartridge controversy, the landfill. And then he also has done reviews and first thoughts on, say, Jurassic World and things like that. He does some work with comics as well, kind of a multi-purpose geek. I could tell you guys to go over there and check him out, and actually I do recommend him. He's got some pretty cool information, and he's got a good sense of humor. But if the individual that's being recommended does not continuously make really worthy content, content that's worth checking out, then all of those people that migrate are just going to watch maybe one or two videos, and that's going to be all. They're not going to be retained as individuals. If you're wondering about the noise, there's a good chance that you're hearing my fan. It's very, very warm in here. And also, if it sounds a little closer, it's because I changed the placement of it, actually, from one window that was a bit further away to a window closer to me. So if you do hear that, that's what that is. I may turn it down. In fact, I'm going to do that now. So I think I say this principally because something happened this past week that made me think about the community and made me think about how you can shoot yourself in your own foot based on the things that you say and based around your general thoughts and perceptions. I know that an individual was a bit intense about a certain aspect of the after the burial video, the tribute to Justin, and he obviously paid for it a little bit. He got a little bit of crap in the comments and everything like that. And I was interested enough to actually check out what he based his videos on, because he's somebody who claims he does the same thing, and he does reviews. He does reviews of all sorts of different things. I've seen album reviews, movie reviews, food reviews, and then a bunch of videos that have very, very misleading titles. And there's just a wealth of them. And I noticed that a lot of the stuff that he reviewed, it was like a day or two after I did it. So, I mean, it's whatever. I mean, that's something that's not necessarily based around me. Some of the stuff was very much so based around the timing of whenever the songs and the albums dropped. But then there were others that's almost like you sort of go through and see what other people were doing and what made them, I don't want to necessarily say what made them money, but what they got a lot of views on, and kind of tried to mirror that. Graveyard is awesome, by the way, Ocean Sage. I hope to talk about their new record later on. Legendary Jeff, what's going on, brother? Glad to see you in here. Apologize also for this being a little bit later, considering it is a Sunday, but studies had to come first today. Studies had to come first. So anyhow, this individual just is not exactly somebody who's very strong with the voice and tries to use a little bit more of that whole concept. He just seems really angry. His analytical side is very poor. There's I don't know. It's really difficult to describe. So automatically, just based around something simple like that, I want nothing to do with it. And you kind of have to think about that a little bit whenever you comment. That's the reason why I try to be, for the most part, relatively positive if I comment outside of this channel. Try to be. I've been known to be sarcastic. I have been known to be just ridiculous. But if there's one thing that I usually don't do is I don't go out and actively try to lambaste a lot of these different videos that I watch with negative comments and stuff like that. And maybe it's my age showing, but I don't know. But whenever you review, and I recommend, and I really think that if you feel like you can do it, it's worth trying. But if you think that it's something where the subscribership, the fan base, the all of the, I guess you would say, the glitz and glamour that is suggested by it is going to come overnight, it's not. It isn't. It takes years and times, or it takes you getting really, really lucky. That's all I'll say. Um, but I feel as though some individuals have a bit of a difficulty separating emotion from analysis. And I know that I have that same problem. I am definitely a little bit more emotionally charged, a little bit more of what a listener may hear and what a listener may feel, versus somebody who is very analytical about, what chords are being played, the progression, some of the tonal quality, and some of the overall smoothness aspects. And I saw a video earlier today that somebody posted, a friend of mine on Facebook posted about how you shouldn't have a negative opinion about music because individuals go out there and they work really, really hard, and they slave over their craft. It's the most important aspect of their life. And then and also, more so than anything else, are willing to deliver that gift unto you. They're willing to put it out there in a public forum. And one of the things that I said to him, because I had to reply, was, well, that might be true. And it is true. They do slave over their craft. But what that video basically suggests is that if there's a band that's out there that's going out there and playing something, I should have no analytical concept whatsoever. I should just say, this really doesn't do it for me, but man, oh man, they're brave. They're really great. They're working really, really hard. Good for them. Now, granted, there's a little bit of a fairness there. But along those same lines, analysis is important. Because then what happens if that same individual, you say, well, you know what, Nickelback doesn't exactly hit me very well. What's 9 out of 10 people going to say? They're going to say why. They're going to say this and that. And then you're back into the analysis. You've actually just taken a much longer road and tried to fulfill some sort of social acceptance that has been going around these days, that you have to approach everything with a certain level of PC decency, and it's just not really the case. But what I will say is that if you're going to present as a reviewer or as an individual who produces videos on the culture of music, or really on the culture of everything, if you're going to present a negative view, you damn well better have some facts, either that or a good and convincing argument to back it up. You are not necessarily aiming to convert people to your opinion. You're presenting an opinion, but you're not necessarily aiming for conversion. If you aim for conversion, then you will fail. Because in spite of the fact that a lot of individuals in this global world, specifically speaking in the country I reside in, are not exactly the brightest bulbs in the drawer, if there's one thing that they are very good at being, and that's offended. They're very good at being offended. They're very good at being offended without listening to the entirety of an argument. And I will give you an example of that as well. And this is also something that as a reviewer you need to kind of sift through. Whether it be through comments or whether it be through what you plan to review, you have to be willing to sift through entire arguments before making yours. There's an individual, my Confederate flag video, who watched it and expressed disapproval after just 3 to 4 minutes. Now, if you've watched that video, Cover Killer Nation, you will know that the real bulk and the chunk of my argument doesn't happen until after that moment in time. So basically, this individual decided to kind of just sell the whole entire idea short. That's more disrespectful to me and more disrespectful to herself than, and really it was, you're not going to insult me with that. It made me laugh. It made me laugh that somebody who actually I respected a lot became very short-sighted. Very, very short-sighted. Now, you have to understand that I have talked a lot of poo-poo in the past on a lot of great bands. And by great, of course, I mean in the eyes of a lot of people. And a lot of times these individuals understand that this is a bit of a character, this is a bit of an over-exaggeration. This is almost like typical music fan 101 every so often. But I hate to just make it simple and say they're terrible musicians that's only liked by 13-year-old girls and that's it. No, I'd rather say that it's something that sounds very generically produced. You know, it's music that sounds plastic in its property. It's one that seems as though it's trying to be very geared toward what this generation of music is based on. It's based off of simplistic ideals. It's based around an electronic property that is manufactured as opposed to played and mastered. It's you know, this is music that seems very much geared toward individuals that don't want to think much whenever they listen to music. And then, of course, one of my biggest questions that I've always had is how do some of these groups reach the youth? And I'm talking groups such as, you know, Blood on the Dance Floor, and I think I actually talked about this in my reaction video to Attila, whenever they were called homophobes. But how does this get out there? I mean, how is this distribution possible? Does some individual bands just have a better tailor and a better pulse on that side of society? Like, how are they getting this? But, you know, some of these things don't really require answers. But you have to be willing to see, and you have to be willing to see the initial argument through before you present a counter argument. You have to be willing to read the entire story and really have something interesting to say. Whenever it comes to actual music, I know that a lot of people say that they have problems putting together the right words in order to describe how they feel. They're really worried that they are doing too many ums and ahs and saying that something is just really, really good and then leaving it at that. There's a lot of superlatives. There are just many different ideas that are kind of simplistic. Perhaps it's a little bit more within the construction of an argument or the construction of the review. Vocabulary is, it sounds so insulting whenever you say that the vocabulary is limited, but there's a difference between the vocabulary that you know and the vocabulary that you willingly and knowingly use on a daily basis, that you can kind of just reach out in your mind's eye and grab it and use it as sort of in a pinch, as opposed to vocabulary that it has just become second nature to you. You know, superlatives whenever describing something that we enjoy, such as really, 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 that is something that it's been used to describe so many different things in our life. Like, that was a really awesome, you know, ball game. That was a really awesome slice of pie. Man, you're a really awesome person. You know, all that repetition kind of makes it seem like that's what you're supposed to do. Almost like it's this mental unwritten rule of rhetoric. But one thing that I will say to all of those individuals, all of you who are out there that perhaps wanted to do this and feel that you didn't have the vocabulary for it, one of the things is the practice all the time, even whenever you're not in front of a camera. You know, it sounds ridiculous, it sounds crazy, but I remember that there were car rides that I used to take where I would listen to something and then I would be in silence for 15 minutes while I reviewed it, and I gave myself that time limit. Whether I reviewed it once, twice, or 3 times, it really didn't matter. You know, it's something that became second nature after a grandiose amount of practice, and doing it in front of a camera each time that you do it is a little bit more of a learning experience and a learning curve, and especially with the response. I know a lot of people get really discouraged whenever their response and the constructive criticism is limited. Of course, some people get really offended if the constructive criticism isn't all that constructive, but for some folks, unfortunately, that is what constructive criticism needs to be. You need to sort of hear some of those really negative things and kind of understand that these are things that they're sort of bogging your video down and things like that. I want to move away from telling you how to review, because I don't think I even know how to do it in reality. And I want to talk about how we in the community can really affect not only music, but how we can also affect the community in general, and that's on YouTube and beyond. One thing that always seems to bother a lot of people is the fact that individuals such as Rihanna and pop stars, rap stars, and the like have Facebook pages and groups like that that have just hundreds of millions in some cases of fans, maybe tens of millions. Hundreds of millions might be a little bit extreme. And yet it seems like heavy metal groups, they're lucky, you know, you're one of the cream of the crop if you have 1 million followers. If you have more than that, chances are that you are either a very well-known band that has been pre-established for a while, that has a cross appeal, either that or you're a newer group that has a cross appeal in the Facebook generation. Excuse me. So, there's one thing that I will say is that whenever it comes to all of those numbers and stuff like that, in the end, it really doesn't make all of that much of a difference. The scope of an audience does make a little bit of a difference, but on Facebook, it really does not matter all of that much. The only thing that you're really getting out of a lot of Facebook groups for bands are there are some moments where you're going to get some personality and you're actually going to talk with members. Don't get me wrong. Some of the lesser known bands especially are run by the bands themselves, so they're the ones that are making all the posts and everything happen. The bigger that you get, the more the more of a chance that it's going to be a publicist, either that or somebody who is kind of in charge of that, or somebody who is a third party, an interested third party, whether it be someone that they hired or perhaps it's family or friends. So there are many reasons why you would want to perhaps go over there and give them a like. But it's more important that we as a YouTube metal community, whenever we are on the site, whenever we are on YouTube, that we definitely check out some of the stuff and really continue to just foster this along. You know, whenever somebody like a Rihanna or an Eminem premiere a video, it's something that's always right there on the top of everybody's list, regardless of who you are. You know, if it's something that YouTube's recommending, they're going to recommend that. If it's Vivo, we know that we're going to see the newest Taylor Swift, Wiz Khalifa, or whatever single. And that is without question. That is without question. It's something where it doesn't matter if you have watched the most screwed up things imaginable, that is the furthest thing away from Taylor Swift. That's going to be the recommendation. But whenever we go through our searches and things like that, we should definitely aim to really support all this stuff and support it very well. And I like to support a lot of the stuff that's directly from the band, that's directly from the groups. Like the Disturbed single that we just covered for Immortalized was actually available, I think, a day or so earlier through a third party. And I didn't feel comfortable touching it. I would have rather it be directly from Disturbed themselves. Same thing with Nile, that was directly through Nuclear Blast. It was something where there was one that was available before that for a very short period of time before it was taken down. And I think the most important thing that we need to do is support one another. We need to definitely help one another out, whether it be just in helping one another discover some new music, some new tunes, maybe pointing to some YouTube URLs if you are friends on Facebook or something like that. Either that or just giving some names and some song titles in order to really foster the experience independently. Talking about Death, I can tell you're talking about Death over there. Man, oh man, what a great band. Absolutely legendary group. Symbolic is probably one of the best metal albums of all time. Individual Thought Patterns ranks up there. Sound of Perseverance was the first death album I ever got. And that was, wow. That was an experience. That was a true experience. I got it the same weekend I went to my first WWE pay-per-view. So it was a really good weekend. Because I still love death, and I watch the WWE, but pretty seldomly. Very, very seldomly. Some people are wondering if I was going to talk about Hulk Hogan. Nah, I'm not going to talk about Hulk Hogan. Although in WWE giving him the Benoit treatment's fucked up. I don't dig that. People are asking about the was it Sandra something case, whatever it was. I don't know anything about that, to be honest with you. I know jack and shit. Like I said, I've been studying primarily. A lot of the CK and React stuff that I'm getting is what I see a lot of people talking about, whether it be on social media or if something really calls out my attention, whether you guys call the attention to me or whether it's something that calls out my attention on, say, like a blabbermouth or a trusted news source. Although with a couple of the things that I posted, I think with the Justin, I think with Justin from After the Barrel, I posted something from Metal Sucks, but that's like one of the only moments that I trust them. Because it's really, really hard to fuck that up. It's really fucking hard to screw up telling your, your base, your customer base, or in this case, your viewership, that somebody has tragically passed away. And if there's one thing that I will definitely say is, if you have not checked out After the Burial, and you did so and actually gave them a shot because of Justin, and you ended up becoming a fan of the band, then I think that's something that he would definitely be smiling down on. That's just my own personal thought, my own personal belief. But those are guys to continue to support. And this is something that, as the we've had some major losses this year, haven't we? We've just had some major losses this year. The Wormreich and Chaotica. That bus accident was just absolutely terrible. We've lost, of course, Justin. We've lost Christopher Lee, which is a much bigger loss than you think. We've lost Chris Squire from Yes. A lot of people, and it's something where you never know what's right around the corner. You never know what's right around the corner. Man, it's 8:42 already. Damn. We'll be going at it for a little while. My brain is mush. My brain is just absolutely fucked. So I want to talk to you guys about one final thing. First of all, I want to check and see how many of you are here. I haven't been looking at any of this crap. 56 of you. Wow. Doing pretty well. Doing pretty well. I know that some of you are sort of wondering how to really help things out and how to progress things. And we've, of course, talked about the fan funding and all that. Yak. I'm not going into that speech, though. If you want to, it is available. Channel page, upper right-hand corner. Anybody who's already done that, by the way, if you're in here, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Every little bit helps. You're wonderful individuals. And I can tell you one thing. Before the end of this year, I'm going to need a new camera. Because that camera that I have over here, this little thing is the magic. That thing has handled probably about at least 1,000 videos, if not more. If not more. The fact that that thing is not just a pool of fuck, it's not just dust, is incredible. And then, of course, we have to start funding for CKN Fest. What are we talking about here? Get the crowd fund going and all that. Excuse me once again. So, If you guys are wondering how to help out, I'll tell you a couple ways to help out. Every video that you watch, like it or dislike it. Don't care. Either way. If you loved it, like it. If you thought it kind of sucked or not your opinion, dislike it. Doesn't matter. Makes it more searchable. Makes everything a little bit larger for us. Comments are great too. But you guys are already commenting like fiends over here in this chat room. I think I'm talking to the wrong demographic. But I don't think I can actually talk about this like in an actual video. Like, you know, just sit down and say, this is what I want you to do. And I, of course, never, ever will discourage sharing. You guys can share everything to your heart's content. Be it a video, be it a post over on the Facebook page. If you make art or memes or whatever, feel free to post them onto the Facebook group. You know, whatever you would like to do, I'm cool with it. I really am. I have thick skin, for one. I have a pretty good sense of humor, for two. And for three, just be forewarned that if you say something that's completely fucked over there, there's a good chance that I won't get mad at it. Instead, what will probably happen is I'll just screen cap it and post it. And you'll be called a fool by a lot of people. I don't know. I don't know if it actually gains anything, but I find it kind of fun. Karma will probably eventually kick my ass, so there's that. But yeah, key things, just the very basic generalities. If you wonder why people say in every video and they post those same things, like, comment, subscribe, blah, 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 and they showcase this and showcase that, it's because it really is the way in which this stuff becomes more searchable and becomes a little bit more available to individuals. Because the algorithm is definitely based around interest and based around retainability and all this other garbage that has been determined to be more important than just the view itself. And it's something that's constantly being changed and improved and whatever. That's all I really have to say about that. It's something I don't mention all that much, principally because this has been something that's grown pretty organically throughout 5 years. But I know a lot of you would love, you either don't understand or wish that it was larger. The only thing that I can say is that we do it together. You know, I put the content out there. I try to share it to you guys as best as I can, and a little bit of it is something that falls on everybody else. Either that or maybe I'm just not that interesting. That's a possibility. I might not be that interesting. I might need to start painting my nails. Or maybe I should start putting on a mask. Maybe I should paint my nails, put on a mask, take my shirt off, and whistle Kumbaya while rubbing my nipples. That way you can see that I did my nails. Holy shit. Anyway, before we sign off here, I'm going to do a couple things. The first thing I'm going to do is tell you that the CKN Reads the Mail segment that I have initially planned, I am still accepting letters for that. And that is only over on the the Facebook page, the Facebook page messages over there on the Facebook page. Leave me a message on the Facebook page. Message, not a direct message that's meant to be on the timeline, but a message. Love the ones I've already gotten, though I will say is if you're just going to ask me about my opinions on a band or something like that, chances are you won't make it on the air. I will give you that tip for free. I do kind of like ones that are a little bit more original, a little bit more creative. If there's ever been a secret desire to have me sign your ass, basically watch the last two segments that we did last year and you kind of understand what I'm talking about, because we did do 2 videos on that before. And aside from that, we are going to be going strong and hard into the midnight with all of the different albums that are going to be coming out within the next few weeks. This week we have Cataclysm, and I think we have another one. Shit, my brain is just collapsing. Is it Asking Alexandria this week, or is that next month? Somebody let me know. But of course, I'm going to be looking to continue with the Rush discography a little bit whenever I can. It has been a long, long time. I understand that. Night, Andrew. And yeah, it's gonna be fun. There's something I do want to say though. There's one other call to action that I have for all of you before I get the hell out of here. And I'll get the hell out of here after 10 minutes of me reading the stuff over here in the chat and responding to it solid flat. That's what I'm going to do with the last 10 minutes. Second call to action. I really loved making that 5 reactions to a band breaking up video. Recommend something of that variety to me. Recommend something of that variety. And I want you to do that in the comments of this video right here whenever it goes up. It'll be up pretty much almost instantaneously after I am done. And yeah, after I'm done. So, all right. I'm going to probably be here for about another 10 minutes or so, and then I am out of here. So I'm going to focus on chat right now. I'm going to focus on chat right now for the next couple of moments. And it looks like we have a lot of people talking about Bloody Kisses. I'm assuming that's Typo Negative. I never did finish that Typo Negative discography. It's been so damned long, though. It has been so damned long. Probably wouldn't take anything for me to do, but I'm not even sure if it'd be worth it. New Cataclysm will probably be meh. I'm thinking the Cataclysm will just sort of sound a lot like the stuff that they've done, is the one thing I will say. Weren't they releasing a video for every song, like every day for a while there? I'm not exactly a really, really big fan of that. I'm kind of not a fan of it at all, to be honest, because I think that you have the potential to really alienate more people than you gain. Opinion on the Faceless. Elliot. A couple years ago, I reviewed Autotheism. It was one of the best albums of the year. I don't know what the hell has happened to them since. Like, there's just been collapse after collapse, you know, band members going here and there and everywhere, and just, I don't know what to say about it. It's crazy. Nemenic, I remember them. I remember, like, their first album. Their first album was pretty good. Second album was just kind of all right. Kind of scaled downward from there. Any chances that I would review anything from him? That'd be something I think I'd almost have to do with, I think it's Count Blackworth. I think he's a him fan. Either that, or if I was able to reestablish a friendship with one of my best friends, she would be a really good person to talk to about it. Although I may have to like clean up some saliva, because I remember she was really deep into him, like really, really deep into him. But that's kind of how that is. Did I ever listen to Native Construct? I listened to a little bit of it. I really enjoyed what I heard, and I feel more guilty about missing it. I feel really, really bad about missing it. And I saw someone say top 5 reactions to a band changing sounds. That's actually not a bad idea. I kind of dig that, so I might have to consider that. The only like limitation that I see from this, and the only problem that I could see, is that eventually it may seem like I'm doing the same 5 reactions because only so many really exist. But 5 reactions to a band changing their sound. I mean, there's obvious anger. There's acceptance. It's almost like the 5 stages of grief. You know, instead of it being the crying of a teeny bopper, it'd almost be like a crying of, please don't change your sound, please, why? No, don't do that. I liked what you did before. Still might be worth checking out. Might be kind of fun. Have I heard Jack Off Jill? Yeah, I have heard some Jack Off Jill. I have a friend from Canada who loves them. Them and the Kidney Thieves. He's a big fan of both of them. So I doubt she's watching this, but shout out to Davina. What's up? A lot of people talking about Nirvana. lot of people talking about Nirvana. Bleach was pretty heavy, I will say, for the time and for the style. But I respect what Nirvana has done. But Mother Love Bone, good God, what a fucking album! Apple is just incredible. Such an amazing album. Would I ever do a video about the best sad songs by metal bands? I don't know if I would ever do that. Seems like something where I could, but it would be a really, really subjective list. It'd be a really limited list. And it's also one that would probably be a little bit more personal than it would be. It wouldn't be a very objective list. I think that would be one that would be very, very personal, considering I think we have different reasons why certain songs hit us as opposed to others. I think that's definitely true. Like, for example, in that new Lamb of God, on the new Lamb of God, the song with Chino Moreno, Embers, I believe is the title of it. I know that whenever Chino's vocals hit me, it hit like a brick wall. It hit like a fucking ton of bricks, but I didn't really get emotional from that. But another friend of mine, also from the Great White North, told me that she was crying her eyes out whenever that hit because of its beauty. See, that's kind of my point. There's a little bit of a difference there. But it's kind of a really cool idea. It'd be one that, like I said, it could open up a lot of conversation. That would open up a lot of conversation. But I think based around that, it would also open up a lot of disappointment, because songs that people think to them are really sad may not be included on the list. Most influential metal bands, man. I think that's a list that could be done. 5 seems a little small. I think 10 would probably have to be the smallest I would go on that. And 10, the only problem with a list like that, it's going to be really typical. That's going to be really, really typical. I'm telling you what, Black Sabbath's obviously going to be on there. Everyone's probably going to think Black Sabbath's going to be number 1. And I really think a lot of people are going to be pissed off if Black Sabbath doesn't end up being number 1. I think a lot of people would be furious. And they say the same thing. They're the first band. They literally influenced everybody. I'm gonna say something between you and me. In spite of all that being true, I actually feel that Iron Maiden has actually done more to influence metal than Sabbath has. Just between you and me. Sabbath has done a lot to really give this idea a name, a characteristic, really a place in the world, so to speak. The term literally comes from the albums that they produced in their earliest days. But I think Maiden's done more. I think Maiden has done more. Ocean Sage is saying that we have Death, Black Sabbath, Dark Tranquillity, Metallica, and Sleep. Not a bad list. Would disagree with Dark Tranquillity. To be perfectly honest with you. I would probably replace Dark Tranquillity with Carcass. 100%. I would definitely do that much. And I think, as well as doing that, you have to also include, it's either Venom. You'd have to do either Venom or Merciful Fate, or maybe just meet in the middle with Celtic Frost, because all 3 of those bands have a huge connection with extreme metal and dark metal. And then, of course, Death is a phenomenal example of what death metal really was set to become, and Chuck and the guys were continuing to sort of develop the whole idea and develop the genre and adding more and more to it. The reason Ocean Sage is actually because with Carcass, I feel that you have the grindcore aspect, and then you go into a little bit of that Gothenburg or that melodic metal aspect with their 90s material. I feel that Dark Tranquility does still have a lot to offer, but you would be more inclusive to include virtually, I would say, most of the Gothenburg sound. So we're talking At the Gates, Dark Tranquility, and even In Flames. I just think the Carcass has done just a little bit more, but right there, that shows that there is a little bit of a, not so much a conflict there, but there is a little bit of a personal ideal there, which is really, really cool. Which is definitely cool. I dig that a lot. Napalm Death, I think, would have to be on that list too. Napalm Death has done more than I think a lot of people really realize. And Cannibal Corpse, see, I don't know about Cannibal Corpse. Cannibal Corpse is one of those bands that I feel would be so easy to throw on a list like that. But I don't know. I don't know if Cannibal Corpse really qualifies as much as we think. I don't know. I tell you what, if you think Cannibal Corpse is one of the 10 most influential bands of all time, I want you, after this concludes here in about 60 seconds, I want you to go over to the Facebook page, and I want you to go to the very first, whatever the first video or the first the first link that you see, the first news story that you see, and I want you to say Cannibal Corpse is one of the 10 most influential bands of all time. I want you to do that for me. But all right, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to do it for me. I thank you all very much for showing up and having some fun tonight. I thank you guys even more so for being patient with me throughout the past couple of weeks where I have been kind of studying up and doing everything like that. The best way to help out is every day watch a couple CKN videos and share them with your friends and everything like that. You know, all that typical hoity-toity, I want to look like your friend so you'll do what I say bullshit. No, but it's true, though. I mean, there's a certain element of truth there. You know, there are 1,400 videos on the channel. There's 1,400 videos on the channel. If you've seen each and every one of them, you're insane, but thank you. If you ever wonder if I've done something, just go over to the channel page, and there should be a way to search for it that way. Either that or in YouTube, just put Cover Killer Nation and then the band and then review. Good chance you're going to see it. But all right, ladies and gentlemen, I will talk to you guys later. I will hopefully do another stream sometime later on this week, maybe next weekend. We're going to see what happens. But it's been a blast. I appreciate each and every one of you. And as always, it's dangerous to go out there alone. Take some great music along with you and make the experience amazing. Peace. I'm out. Eventually. Now I'm out.